Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I am trying new mic placement, and it's really annoying. But, hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? Today we are talking about, I don't know, a bunch of stuff. We've got a bunch of stuff to cover. We've got Fedsnatching. We've got fat Missouri lawyers pulling out guns, getting charged with crimes. We've got a Vic appeals update. We've got Twitter idiocy bleeding through the dang screen. Oh my goodness. It's been a day. Is the mic like particularly loud? Let me turn it down a bit. Sorry about that. Like I said, I've got new mic placement, so please forgive me if I need to adjust something. I will. Oh man, I just got back from a run and then a shower. So yes, I have the full Karen floofy cut going on, but don't worry. As a Karen, I will be out in the wall of moms defending my little Antifalets, running around playing protest. I will be doing that, making sure those mean old federal agents don't steal them. Did you guys see the fantastic? It's fantastic. Oh boy. Yeah, we've got Cecil's comic, his comic book cover being canceled by Dynamite because of hashtag wokeology. We've got, what has been going on here? Why am I jogging at 11 p.m.? No, I went jogging at 9:30 because that was the first time I had to jog today. I grabbed my trusty jogging hammer, I grabbed my Timberlands, and I went out jogging. Who doesn't jog in the middle of the night? Anyway. Also, highly recommended if you have a heat allergy to not jog in the heat of the day, but to jog later in the evening if possible. I actually used to run, when I lived in the Twin Cities, and there was actual, electricity on the streets with lights, I would prefer to run around 11 to midnight. I would go for runs down, a long lit street and then through a lit park trail, and then out the back end of the park to another street and then come back. It was a great route. It was beautiful. And it was away from all the peoples, but it was good times. Jogging stream when? I'll just go inspect all of the construction sites I can find. That's actually an interesting... there's been a lot of development in that case. I don't know. I haven't been really covering it, but I've been following the news updates on my own as they come out, and I'm about due for another video. I can summarize some of them here. Allegedly, prior to the video of Arbery confronting the McMichaels, he was struck by a car or a truck multiple times. And if that proves out to be somewhat true, then that case gets really much more complicated than it was, because that changes it from sort of the encounter that the law of self-defense guy and I were talking about to much more protracted engagement. And so I don't know about the evidence that they have about that, but that has been alleged that he has been that he was struck a couple times. Now, going firmly against the McMichaels specifically. Going firmly against them specifically. Roddy, or whatever, the guy following with the cell phone camera or whatever, he also has been, is now the subject of a sex crime investigation by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. So they have taken him and put the heat up to like, 1 million. And I would not want to be that guy right now. That is a bad place to be. So we'll see. We'll see what happens as far as that case. But lots of interesting developments that are going to change the legal landscape and the legal arguments in that case. And so as the days go on, I'll probably solidify some of my thoughts on that into a video when I can actually collect some of the data that they've got rather than just get a couple news snippets. But it looks, the case, as things always are, right? Cases are always more complicated than they first seem. They just are. And once they get into sort of the nuts and bolts of a criminal accusation, once they overcome that hurdle of probable cause and have charged someone, things start to get different. And it doesn't matter what you've heard going into something, because there's always potential on both sides for some new stuff to come out. And that new stuff could be, it could be shattering to the case, or it could be bolstering to the case. You'll never know until it actually happens. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I wouldn't want to be either the McMichaels or Roddy in this case. If you're suddenly the subject of a murder trial and also a criminal sexual investigation, your life just got real ugly real fast. And hopefully he's not a weirdo, or hopefully he is a weirdo. I don't know. I don't care. I don't care about any of these people. Why should I? Anyway, that being said, so today I put out early in the morning a video on the McCloskeys. The McCloskeys are the Missouri couple defending their palace with guns from a raging mob of allegedly peaceful protesters. Now, look, everybody's a peaceful protester, right? Okay. Yes, nobody has ever committed any violence. All the protests are peaceful, and it's just random elements that are hiding alongside and co-opting peaceful protest moments. That those random elements are the people causing the violence. Sure. The McCloskeys lived on a private section, private road or whatever. They had a homeowners association and all of that. And then there's conflicting reports, allegedly, that the gate was either just open and the protesters all just came in through the wide open gate, or the gate was torn down, bent out of shape, and all of that stuff. So who knows? I've seen the gate. It didn't look wide open. It looked bent all to nothing. But anyway, if my vocals are delayed, I don't know what to tell you about that. Refresh the stream might help, because everything on my end is good. We've got good upload rates. I don't know what to say. Anyway, so if you are having trouble with the stream, just refresh it, because everything on my end is running smoothly. So anyway, where was I? Okay, so they went out and defended themselves, so to speak. That's their assertion, that they were in fear for their property, in fear for their safety, and so they went out with firearms and were engaging the crowd somewhat. Now, the wife was idiotically holding her gun towards protesters. Very bad decision. Oh, excuse me. Very bad decision. Should not have been done. She should not, whether or not she was within her rights to do so, she shouldn't have been done. And let me tell you why she shouldn't have been done. She shouldn't have done that. And one of the big reasons why is because allegedly that firearm doesn't function in the first place. So you are now you're pointing an inactive firearm at protesters for the purposes of self-defense. And whether or not you're legally justified in doing that, you should not be pointing an inactive weapon as if it were an active weapon. That's a terrible thing to do. Don't do it. Don't do it. But that being said, since I did that video, there has been an update in the case, and that they have actually been charged with a crime. My video earlier, which you should check out, is in regards to the governor stating that he will issue a pardon if they are charged and then subsequently convicted, because the Missouri governor needs to, or the Missouri pardon power relies on a conviction occurring first, unlike the executive pardon power of the president of the United States. But if they were convicted, he would pardon them. Now they have actually been charged. They were not charged at the time of recording, but they've been charged since then. And so we will see how that goes. I see someone in the chat saying that the Attorney General has filed for the charges to be dismissed. We'll see. We will see what happens. It's a mess. These people should not be charged, in my opinion. Not at all. But we put a lot of power in the hands of prosecutors. That's why prosecutors are the worst people on earth. Even if they're good, they're terrible, because they have the power to make your life terrible. They really do. Bringing the charges forces you to defend against them, whether or not they're justified. And if, for example, they're completely unjustified, you still have to defend them. And lots of people are charged with unjustified charges, and instead of actually defending them or getting them dismissed, they end up entering into plea agreements that they shouldn't be entered into. And in fact, in this case, it was interesting because the attorney charging the McCloskeys suggested that they should be able to basically plead guilty and enter a deferment program with rehabilitation where they could get some counseling and therefore get the charges dismissed. It's like, oh, get bent. If you don't do something wrong, you shouldn't have to rehab it. That's insane. And of course, it's the disconnect between prosecutors and average people, where they're like, well, they'll just do a rehab program. Everything will be fine. Because to them, a rehab program is no big deal. To a real person, a rehab program is time, potentially money, reputational implications, not to mention pleading guilty to a crime. It's disgusting. So anyway, for more details about that, initially, you could check out my video earlier today, and I have since recorded. The stream is apparently unstable on YouTube side today, so it'll be back. It'll be back. Again, Streamlabs for me is reporting that nothing is going wrong. Who knows? It's lovely. It's lovely. Thank you, YouTube, for your service. Now, please peacefully sunset yourself into a coffin. Okay. We're going to look at some Fedsnatching videos and talk about it, but it's going to be less in the context that I did in the video earlier, which is a little bit more serious breakdown of the whole arrest and stuff like that. And we're going to look at this with a little bit of comedy. In my opinion, comedy. It might not be funny at all. Probably isn't. Probably isn't. But it will play into the Twitter head scratching as well. because I got wrapped up into one of the most nonsensical Twitter arguments I can imagine, in which I was called a bootlicker and a statist or whatever, which, I mean, I don't know anybody who hates the state as much as I do, but, you know, I guess. So we'll talk about that. Then there, like I said, there's an update in the Vic's appeals case, and I will give some musings on it. There's not a lot of substance to get out of the Vic appeals update. I don't want to like oversell it as you're going to walk away with something, but it changes kind of my attitude and speculation on the case a little bit, and we can talk about that. And then there might be some other stuff that comes up. That's what's going to happen. That being said, after the show, there will be Twitch. There will be a watch party. We will have a good time. I think I will have a good time. I hope you guys will too. There will be, I'm not sure exactly what we're watching yet, but we'll figure it out. We can figure these things out. And then we'll be done. That's how it's going to go. Okay, this week, how this week is going to go, I'm not entirely sure. But I can say this, I am in talks with Darkside Phil to have him on the show near the end of the week. So I am hoping that he will come on. We had a good chat over DMs, and I would love to have DSP on the show to talk about all sorts of stuff. So that is hopefully on the docket. You know, some of the focus of the conversation will be about copyright exploitation, content creation over the past decade, how that landscape has changed, online trolls, all of that stuff, right? The stuff that I want to talk about with Phil is about who Phil has been and how it has affected him over the past 10 years. I think it'll be really interesting. We'll see. You know, right now it is tentative, and so I'm hoping that we can solidify it and that, guys, stop saying F immediately when it glitches out. Just 1 second. 1 second and it comes back. It's just YouTube is slow. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like Ninja coming back or whatever. It's who knows? But YouTube is just insane with this stuff. I don't know why it's like this, and I hate it. But it's also, you can't stop us. Yes, I can. I will tell you what to do. Just kidding. All right. Should we get into some of these topics? I guess we should. Okay. Oh, one last thing. If you didn't see it, on Sunday, I had what I found to be a pretty interesting chat with a guy that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, which tells me that it was a good chat, a good discussion. We talked about employment law, and some people accused him of being a socialist or a communist. And look, if you've got an employment lawyer, you kind of want them to sound like a socialist or a communist. You just do. because they're going to be vigorously representing your rights against companies, whether or not they actually are a socialist or communist. But if you did not see that live stream, because it was actually a pretty interesting discussion, and there's a lot to get out of there about your rights as a worker, and there's some interesting sort of things to think about if you do work for any employer. So definitely check that out if that is of interest to you. It's Yeah, Andrew Stout says he's fine. He's just the reason why I won't hire anyone. Yeah, me too, pal. I don't want to be an employer. Too much of a mess to deal with that stuff. But anyway, a really interesting guy. I may have him on for some other topics. In fact, he already suggested another topic for me today, which was the lawsuit against Tucker Carlson and Fox News. So I might see if he's available to pop on and do a lawyer breakdown of that lawsuit, and we can laugh at it this week. But if he's not, I'll do it. I know someone said to read it on stream. I'm not going to read it tonight, but I do want to dig into that lawsuit against Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and stuff like that. It should be a good time. It should be a good time. Okay, Phoenix Orem sent a chat earlier. He says, "Hey Nick, for Tubster, would you be down for reading her fan fiction with Drex? Possibly on Cress's show. It's good. Also, Bulma wants your measurements. Hope you, Lady Rackets, and the kids are good. Godspeed." Yes, I would be fine reading the fanfic stuff, doing voices or whatever for it. I don't know if Drex would be. You'd have to ask him. On Cress's show is fine. That doesn't bother me. Yeah. I'm up for it. It all depends, as always, on time and timing. So, there you go. Bad Vibes says, "You know the fact that Second Amendment supporters aren't going to help beat their effing stream." YouTube can eat cock for the buffering. I'm gonna get annoyed. With this. It's not my connection today. Streamlabs tells you what your connection is. I could put it up on stream and show you. There have been no dropped frames. There's been, the bitrate is stable. It's just YouTube, mate. Anyway, it's great. I hate it. We'll just call, what I should do is I should name my stream Ghislaine Maxwell or whatever and see if they come and kill it. Bad Vibes, I will reread the previous chat. I will. Oh my God. And we'll probably talk about the murder of the judge's husband, or the judge's kid, and the injuring of the judge's husband in the Epstein debacle. We should probably talk about that today too. I mean, I don't know why we should talk about the fact that everyone associated with the Epstein thing is suddenly like at risk of things that may be causing that judge's danger as well. But it's, you know, we'll in it. Oh my God. Okay, Bad Vibes says, "You know the fact that Second Amendment supporters aren't going to help Black Lives Matter is justice. Black Lives Matter, they didn't come out for Chris Dorner when he tried to address police brutality, and they didn't come out during the Molehair standoff." Yeah, well, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. It's not just like this idea that there's a quid pro quo where Black Lives Matter didn't come out for so-and-so, so they won't come out for Black Lives Matter. It's not just that. I mean, there's an element to that, right? There's more of an element to, in my opinion, to the idea that not only do they hate actively Second Amendment fetishists, but it's not just that. It's also that they want to deprive the Second Amendment from people. They want to take the right to own guns away. And then suddenly, when the feds are just yoinking people off the street. They want the people whose rights they're trying actively to infringe to ride as cavalry to the rescue. Well, that's nonsense. Why on earth would they do that? Why would you ride out to support someone who's trying to fucking YouTube? This is going to be a great show. I'm going to get progressively more pissed off as this buffering shit happens. Well, if we can have a few minutes, to discuss what's going on, I will discuss what's going on. Why should I, as a Second Amendment supporter, go fish my guns out of a lake and defend anybody else? Like, these people are expecting someone to come and pull guns on federal agents? Like, don't get me wrong, I hate the state, and I think that federal agents are terrifying people, and I don't want them snatching people off the street. I don't want any of that stuff. But at the same time, I'm not running out to risk my life for damn near anybody. Like, why would I do this? Why would I go out with a gun where feds are snatching people off the street? No, thank you. The guns are to defend me, my family, and my homestead, not you. They never were. You get a gun. Go get one. Now, if you're at my house, I'll defend you. If you're in my proximity, I will defend you. But I'm not going to run to your rescue, especially like if I don't really agree with what you're doing. I don't want the feds to grab you. I want you to get all the due process you're deserved. But I'm not running out and interfering with Fed officers for you. And I wouldn't expect anyone to run out and interfere with Fed officers for me. Like, that's insane. Ugh. But anyway, yeah. Fighting Slug says, when the right-wingers took over the nature preserve a couple years back, these are the same people calling to send in the Marines and kill them all. Of course they were. Of course they were. They're trying to point out a hypocrisy of Second Amendment people because they assume that Second Amendment people are also collectivists. But they're not. They're individualists. And the idea of you being armed for your own protection is one that should be held by everybody. Everybody should be armed for their own protection. And if they're all armed for their own protection, maybe the feds wouldn't snatch up all of these people. Maybe they'd have a second thought when there's 100 people around all peacefully armed for their own protection. Arm up. Exercise your rights. That's my thought. I mean, and believe me, I don't these or anything like that, and certainly not their manifestos. But at the same time, I have no right to deny them. I don't have any right to deny them the ownership of firearms. That's their Second Amendment right too. We've suddenly got this new idea that people being armed automatically means those people are dangerous. And I know we don't. I know a lot of people don't do that, and people who actually respect the Second Amendment don't think this way. But society has determined that arming yourself is an act of violence, irrespective of any actual acts of violence. And that's not how it works. If I arm myself but never draw the weapon on anybody, I don't use the weapon to intimidate anybody, but there's an understanding that I may have the weapon, that makes a polite society. And that's the point of everyone being equally armed. Now, I know no one can be equally armed to Mars Girl, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Having equal access to firearms. And that's the point of concealed carry of those firearms. So you don't actually know who is armed. And you don't need to. Just go ahead and assume the guy across the table is armed, and you will be polite to him. And he will be polite back. Romeo Garbo says, YouTube, bad streaming mechanics, dude. Yes. Yeah, there's some messed up streaming mechanics tonight. But anyway. Siren Jag says, I called it earlier. They want Second Amendment supporters to run out to confront soldiers with their guns and die. They hope to shame conservatives into running out to die. Yeah. I mean, to some extent, sure. Sure. Oh my gosh. Well, let's talk about... Whoops. Let's, this guy. Should we bring up one of these Fed snatching videos? We can watch through a couple instances of Fed snatching. Now, this will incorporate a portion of what was shown in my 20-minute video that I did on this that's going to come out later. So there's about a minute-long segment that I've used in that video. But there's a bunch of these Fed snatching videos out there. But let's talk about it. And also, let's I got to bring up, let's see, what is it? Is this what I think it is? Oh, it is. Perfect. Perfect. I'll bring up the thing that sparked my Twitter argument earlier. And we'll talk about that, because I think it is really important to this whole, to set the perspective of all this stuff. Okay, let me get my headphones. All right, we've got headphones. Let's transition. Oh my goodness, now we're dominating women's sports. Okay. Apologies, that was too far. That was too far. Okay, let's take a look at this tweet here. This is the tweet that that sparked 1,000 morons right here. This is Rob Sheridan. Rob Sheridan, who wears a mask. Black Lives Matter. Rob Sheridan is a white guy, I think, who used to do art for Nine Inch Nails, or maybe still does art for Nine Inch Nails. I don't even know. I don't care. But here is what he says. Here's what he says. So now that Fed government's Gestapo is attacking and detaining Americans, and to be clear, I don't like the Fed snatching. I don't like it at all. I think that it is ripe for abuse. I'm not entirely sure that constitutional protections are in place, and part of that is on the fault of the protesters. However, it's not the protesters' responsibility to protect their constitutional rights. It is the Fed's responsibility not to violate their constitutional rights. So I will say that some of the stuff that's going on is the fault of the protesters in some way. However, it shouldn't be the responsibility of the protesters to ensure their rights aren't violated. So, I mean, there's difference between what should be and what's a best practice. Okay, so we're going to talk about those things in just a minute. But here we go. Now that the Fed's government Gestapo is attacking and detaining Americans, where are all the Second Amendment fetishists who've been telling us that they need to freely stockpile weapons for this exact occasion? This isn't the exact occasion. The well-regulated militia must be on its way, right? Or gasp, was that all BS? Let's address this in some points here. First of all, you don't want the well-regulated militia to show up. I promise you that you don't want the National Guard to show up, because that's the well-regulated militia in 2020, my friend. That is the militia group that is well-regulated. The National Guard. They were deployed to Minneapolis. It sucked for the guardsmen. It sucked for Minneapolis. Nobody likes it. Everybody's pissed. And if they deployed the National Guard in to come help out, guess whose side that well-regulated militia is on in this instance? I'll give you 2 hints. Not fucking Antifa. The security of the state. The well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state. That means the security of the state is of paramount importance to the well-regulated militia. If you know the Second Amendment at all, you understand what interest is at issue in the well-regulated militia clause, and it is not individual rights and freedoms. It is the security of the free state that's at issue. Let me posit politely. Just in time, did you just say that the National Guard is not a militia? The National Guard is the militia. It is defined, codified in U.S. law as the militia. It absolutely is the well-regulated militia. You may not like it, but it is. No, it is not. Well, I mean, National Guard? Let's see. Here we go. Let's just go ahead and 10 USC 246, militia, composition, and classes. The militia of the United States consists of all able-bodied males at least 17 years of age and except as provided in Section 313 of Title 32, under 45 years of age who are or who have made a declaration of intention to become citizens of the United States, and of female citizens of the United States who are members of the National Guard. The classes of militia are 1. The organized militia, which consists of the National Guard and the naval militia, and 2, the unorganized militia, which consists of members of the militia who are not members of the National Guard or the naval militia. Guys, the National Guard is the fucking well-regulated militia. It's that. It is the organized militia. The unorganized militia is all men and then women who are in the National Guard. That's it. All men 18 to 45, except for a few health exceptions. So I want to point out that the well-regulated militia would be the National Guard. So it wasn't always that way. It really was not always that way, but it is that way now. So I just want to point that out. I know there's some confusion about it because people don't see the National Guard as a militia, right? You see the National Guard as part of the military. It's a military branch, but and sure, it is, but it's also the regulated militia. Okay, so that being said, I want to get the well-regulated militia used to be organized groups within states. It did. It used to be organized groups within states that had training schedules. They were militiamen. They signed up for it, and they had some level of recognition within the community. We have eschewed the 1800s view of the militia for all sorts of reasons, primarily because, one, we're lazy. We're lazy people. And that's, we have given a lot of that autonomy and authority to the federal government to create militias, to create the militias that we don't create. And that's why governors call up the state militia, or the National Guard, as the state militia. When the governors have to call on the National Guard and invoke them, they're invoking the well-regulated militia for the security of the free state. So, that being said, it didn't used to be that way. But let me reiterate, this guy being you, don't want the well-regulated militia to come, because the well-regulated militia that we recognize today is the National Guard. And that well-regulated militia exists for the purposes of security. Means that the interests of the free state are averse to the interests of Antifa and Black Lives Matter and motherfucking buffering. I I'm going to lose my mind in just a minute. I'm gonna lose my mind in just a minute. I'm finishing off this Brother Justice single malt whiskey. This is good stuff. I may get another bottle for a whiskey review, but I have a different bottle for this month's whiskey review. Let me read the super chat. Maybe that's my problem. I've got an outstanding chat and I haven't read it, and YouTube is punishing me for it. James Karg says, first, glad to see you're still okay in these times of growing civil unrest. Man, out here, we're in the wide open country. We're in the wide open space. It is beautiful. There is no growing unrest out in my neck of the woods. Thank God. I don't give a damn about this stuff. Like, look, I want to change police violence. I don't want to change police violence against black people. I want to change police violence against everybody. I want to stop government overreach. I want to stop governments from snatching people. All of that. You know what I don't need to do? I don't need to have a mall fucking looted to tell me that. I don't need to see a bunch of people running around raiding a jewelry store to tell me that police violence is bad. Never in my life has the argument about police violence involved looting an electronics department of a Target, okay? So, I don't need any of that shit. I don't need that at all. I want our legislators. I want our cops. I want our sheriffs. Sheriffs are based as hell, by the way. And sheriffs are pretty cool. The amount of power that they have to enforce law in the way that they see fit is pretty amazing. And I want more sheriffs coming out and being like, nah. I learned recently that my sheriff doesn't really care that much about the COVID stuff. Cool. I like this guy. I'll vote for him immediately. Like, there you go. But that being said, I want to see these changes start to occur. None of that involves defacing federal buildings. At all. If you deface a federal building, my goddamn income tax has to pay to clean it up. I would rather my income tax pay for anything than that. So piss off with your weird commie shit and tearing down statues of people that you don't like because you don't understand what life was like 150 years ago when they lived. I don't care about that problem. Oh my God. Someday I'm going to rant about the goddamn guy who made a really cool game, Cthulhu Death May Die, based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft. And now he's like, H.P. Lovecraft was a racist. You know what? Neck yourself. In Minecraft, of course. In Minecraft Dungeons, preferably. But fuck off. You took all of this man's work. You took it. It's public domain. It's yours to take. But you took it to make something else. And then you shit on him. Oh my God. Anyway. Okay. Back to it. Back to this. Let's talk about this. Where was I? You don't want the militia to show up, because when they did in Minneapolis, it sucks for the militia. It sucks for the people. It sucks for everybody. I will maintain that guardsmen generally, well, the ones that I know, let me preface this. The guardsmen that I know that got deployed to Minneapolis were like, why are we here? There's a extremely well-funded, well-trained Minneapolis police force that can do this. We've been brought in as a political act to deal with this. Like, it's not like it's out in some rural area that doesn't have riot gear, that doesn't have all of the cool militarized shit that they get to use. No thanks. No, it's not that at all. Minneapolis had the resources to deal with their own problem. The real problem is Mayor Jacob Frey tucking his penis up into his vagina and saying that the police weren't going to do anything about people breaking the law and, in fact, storming state buildings. That's ridiculous. But anyway, so you don't want them showing up. Because if you want to know what the well-regulated militia looks like, they'll look exactly like this. This is how they'll be dressed. These are feds. These are feds from Homeland Security, and I don't know where else. Probably, ATF or something. It doesn't really matter. These are feds. But if you call in the guard, they're going to be in fatigues. They're likely going to be in camo. They'll have tactical gear. They'll have some sort of weapon. The police have mixes of lethal and non-lethal weapons. I think this is a paintball gun. By the way, how much do you want a paintball gun that shoots out pepper balls? Oh, God, that would suck. Some of the things they come up with is funny. It's a Border Patrol tactical unit, they've said. Okay, cool. Yeah, Border Patrol. That would be DHS. Border Patrol, if I remember right, is under the auspices of DHS. Romeo Garbo says, I have to peace out, Nick. I have a busy week. Here's a super chat to bring me to 100 tonight. Oh, thank you. I wish nothing but the best to you and yours. Good night, Nicky boy. Good night to you, Romeo. I wish nothing but the best back, and I really do appreciate the support of the show. Oh, I didn't finish reading James's super chat. Damn it. I'm discombobulated by the buffering. Put on the vest. I'll have to get a vest. Maybe I can get Phil to teach me the ways of the vest. James Carg, yeah, he said, glad to see you're still okay in these times of growing civil unrest. Thank you. Thank you. But out here, it's really peaceful. We did have one literally peaceful protest. I think it lasted like an hour, and it was still 15 miles from my house. I had nothing to do with it, and it was amazing. Second, to be fair, there's not really such a thing as being peacefully armed. 9 out of 10 times if you are armed, you intend to use said arms. MAD, but that's me. I will politely disagree. Although I see your point and your premise, and I'm not going to say you're wrong. It's a matter of perspective. But with me, when I am armed, as in I am carrying a firearm, my intent is to not use said arms. And my hope and prayer is to never even have to draw them, ever. So that is how I approach it. My idea, whether it's me carrying an asp, a knife, or a gun, is that I hope and pray I don't have to draw this. I don't intend in any way to use this. It is there as my last resort. So that is my personal opinion on it. If your perspective is different, I get it. I understand. But I think it's a difference of perspective. And I don't like to assume the intent of people. So I assume that someone who isn't drawing the weapon is not intending on firing the weapon. So that's me. Thank you, Siren Jag. Why is that Papa Roach song has been stuck in my head for days? Cut my life into pieces. It's like the most emo but heavy song I can think of. It's great. Omega Zero, yeah, getting hit with a paintball hurts like shit. I know. It's terrible. But it's effective. It doesn't kill you. Okay, let's watch some Fedsnatching stuff. Now I'm gonna turn up the volume here. It should be plenty audible. Let me unmute it. And then we'll pause it at a couple points and talk about what's going on a little bit.
I volunteer. Here, I volunteer.
Okay, it's blurry, but you can see here, this is one of the points of contention. They keep calling these unidentified agents, right? And if you watch my video later today, I'm going to talk about this. Under Oregon law, I believe the court will determine that these people are identifiable as law enforcement officers. And a big reason is their uniforms are uniform. Their fatigues, sure, but they are uniform. They're all dressed in the same thing. And they are clearly labeled on the chest, and many of them also on the back or a backpack as police. So they are identified, and I believe they are identified for the purposes of Oregon law, which states that you have a right that the officer is, or you are entitled to be arrested by someone who has identified themselves as an officer or places you into a marked vehicle. Now, the feds are using unmarked minivans, probably because they're out arresting Karens and they want them to be returned to their natural environment. But either way, they're out using minivans for their snatches. And hopefully they're not touching snatches in the minivan. Don't diddle people, feds. That being said, they are doing that, and that is allowed under Oregon law. You can be a uniformed officer and throw someone into an ice cream truck. You don't get to violate their process rights in any other substantive way, but just because the vehicle is not identifiable easily as a police vehicle, that does not mean that they cannot put you in that vehicle if they are a uniformed officer. So, it is, that is something I wanted to clarify. I do talk about it in the video. And I do hope you guys will check out that video when it goes live. I'll probably set it live after the show. I have to make a thumbnail for it, but other than that, I think it's about ready to go. Look at this. He's got, I love these uniforms. They're terrifying as shit, by the way. I do not want to face down a Fed officer, even with a paintball gun and a bunch of zip ties, because I don't know if he's going to zip tie me, shove the paintball gun up my anus, and start firing pepper pellets into my rectum. That would be terrible. Terrible. But they do look cool.
Identify themselves as law enforcement so we don't have to get kicked.
I want to... We're going to go back just a second. Can people identify themselves as law enforcement?
Identify themselves as law
police right on his damn chest. As you're walking by, it's right there.
Enforcement so we don't have to get kidnapped. Feel like we're getting kidnapped.
I mean, look, if the cops pick you up, even uniformed officers pick you up, you should feel like you're getting kidnapped. Otherwise, you did something wrong. Like, if you don't feel like you're getting kidnapped, you feel like you're under arrest. Look, if the feds, any cop ever puts me in the back of a car, I feel like I'm getting kidnapped because I am a damn saint. You won't catch me doing anything wrong. I pee in all the toilets, never on the street. I don't do anything out of line. Why on earth would I be arrested? I'm an angel. So we feel like we're not being kidnapped. Look, you should feel like you're getting kidnapped. They're putting you in a damn van. Oh, but interestingly, of course, the cops have no duty to speak to any of these people. The Fed cops have no duty to speak to any of these people. Nothing. They owe them 0 words until they're being arrested.
Make it right.
What are you doing?
Okay, so oh God, that's loud. We're on to a new thing. Look at all the zip tie cuffs. Those things are great. Whoever invented this is a genius. We'll get back to that in a second. I got a couple chats to read. But this is the next event. Socialism is for figs. Can you stop calling them protesters? I think you mean protesters. They're not that. They're a violent mob with a goal. So insurrectionists or rioters, please, or commies, and stop calling the National Guard militia. We are non-active military. Socialism is for figs. I have a huge amount of respect for the National Guard. Believe it or not, I know a lot of people actually don't. But I know some very good people who are guards, career guard members, and what they go through is well beyond anything I would do. So make no mistake, when I say that the Guard is a militia, it is based, again, on the U.S. code that codifies that the National Guard and the Naval Militia are the organized militia of the United States. I believe you are also non-active military. I do not think those are mutually exclusive. But the reason I'm bringing up that the Guard is the militia as codified is, again, going back to this idea that this guy's talking about the well-regulated militia must be on its way. Well, the well-regulated militia, we have changed from being a private organization into being the National Guard. And therefore, I'm making a very particular legal point that many people are not familiar with. And that well-regulated... And these are... The people who are not familiar with the fact that the Guard is the militia, the well-regulated militia, are the people who say that that part of the Second Amendment really matters and we're not upholding it. But we do, at the federal level, uphold the idea of a well-regulated militia, and then we delegate control over that well-regulated militia at the state level to governors. And I, for what it's worth, I think it's really cool that we've done that. It's not the original spirit of what the militia was intended to be, but it is pretty damn interesting that we do it. And the Guard has a different command structure than the other branches of military because of it. So I think it's a really interesting thing. I'd love to get an expert in to talk specifically about that issue at some point, but just from a reading of the law, I mean, that's what it is. So, but that when I call the Guard a militia, please make no understanding that I am pejoratively addressing the Guard. I have tons of respect for the Guard. Probably more than many people you'll find, mainly because my personal experience with guardsmen has always been positive. And I respect their perspective on these issues quite a bit. So, okay. AGK says, R.E. Lovecraft guy, how like a pigeon, a rat with wings, to stand on the shoulders of giants and then effing shit on them. Yes. Yes! Perfect. Well said. Well said. James, how can I be mistaken? It's in the law. It's right there. Okay. Anyway, we'll keep going. We'll keep going.
Use your words. What are you doing?
Use your words. Oh my God. The level of Karen in these people is off the charts. Again, I will point out these are feds, but they have no obligation to people that they are not arresting to state any words. They don't have to say anything to you at all. Not at all.
Use your words. What are you doing?
I haven't done anything.
Oh, God. Hopefully lowering the timbre of your voice by an octave. Jesus. Oh, this guy goes with the perfect defense when feds are approaching to say, I haven't done anything wrong. We know this is the weakness of this video. Of course, there's always a weakness to these videos, right? We know nothing about what happened prior to those feds walking up to this guy. They could have spotted him, her, him, hard to tell these days. They could have spotted that doing literally anything. The feds are in Portland, statues and fed buildings happening around the federal courthouse. In fact, the wall of moms that we're going to talk about in a little bit was outside the federal courthouse building. And the wall of moms, I can't stress enough, is the funniest damn thing I've seen all day. All day. Imagine that you can't get a boog crew to come out and save you with their cool firearms. So what do? Mom, come help me protest. The government's mean. And then the participation trophy mom squad rolls out in gas masks saying, don't harm our kids. Hey, grab your kids by the damn ears and drag them back to the PlayStation so they can watch Neil Druckmann cuck himself on fucking Last of Us. They shouldn't be in the damn streets. Oh my God. We're gonna cover the walls in just a minute. It's amazing. You couldn't, and then these women think that they're entitled to some sort of different government treatment than everyone else, thereby topping off everything you could ever want to know about the type of people involved in this. Well, we're moms. How dare you flashbang and tear gas us? It doesn't matter who you are. If they're gonna flashbang the crowd, they should equally flashbang everybody else. And I don't mean flashbang like the naked chick who showed her hoo-ha to Fed agents. Oh my God. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that in just a bit. Is the audio? Oh, fucking Kiwi. I'm sorry if the audio's desynced. There's nothing I can do about it. Hit refresh, see if it works. All right, here we go.
Use your words.
Use your words.
What's going on, sir?
What is going on? We need to know.
He's being arrested.
Who are you?
Are you
Police.
NLG will get you.
It's right there. It's on the front and back of this guy. This guy doesn't seem to have a back posting of police.
Out. What's your name? Tell us your name.
What's your name?
Okay, you're fine. We'll get you out.
Bro, what? All right.
Okay, so this is a conflict, a conundrum that that rioters, protesters, whatever you want to call them, I don't give a shit. Civil disobedience have to deal with, right? They have to walk this interesting line. I talk about this more in the video that'll be released later, but let me briefly address it here as well. If your goal is to maintain anonymity, that runs counter to the transparency that you want the government to have in dealing with you. And let me be very clear on this, because a lot of people are like, well, why do we show mugshots? Why do we have arrest records? That's not fair. Wrong. That's what you want to have. What you don't want is idiotic companies punishing you for arrest records that have no convictions attached to them. That's where the wrong occurs. Arrest records are great. Arrest records and mugshots say this person was brought to this station, booked and processed. which means when homegirl here gets a mugshot and a name attached, you know that she's all right, or he, or whatever that is. You know that they're alive, that they didn't get renditioned into some abandoned building and waterboarded for 15 hours before being cut. That's what we want. You want to be able to check on these people. You want them to show up on the arrest record tomorrow. That is the goal of a transparent system. We want to stop companies from punishing people for being on that transparent system. If your charges are dismissed, a company should not hold anything against you ever. However, we want the transparency, because without it, like, imagine no mugshots, no arrest reports, nothing. 50 people picked up on the streets of Seattle last night. 30 showed up for court. Oh, shit. What happened to the other 20? Well, they're in the kids' hot dogs today, folks. You'll never know. But let's... It's amazing. But you want this. But this person, they have this dual problem, right? You want the transparency for your protection, but they want to be anonymous for their own protection. And you don't get to have both. Specifically in Oregon and most states as well, you don't get to have both, because once you are under arrest, and believe me, if we do a Fourth Amendment analysis on this, of course this thing is under arrest. I say thing because I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, and I don't know how they would identify other than that as well. If we do a Fourth Amendment analysis on this, of course this person is under arrest. Their arms are behind their backs. They're being escorted by 2 officers. They are not free to leave. They're not free to leave. They go, and they're about to go in the van, and the van is going to drive away off to Neverland or whatever, and they're gone. They're under arrest for all intents and purposes. That being said, when you are under arrest, under Oregon law, you are required to provide an accurate statement of your identity to police officers. That's about the only thing you are legally required to provide to them, but you do have to do that. So it's, do I say analysis in court too? I should try that. I don't use that word too often in court, but next time I will. When exactly, though, do they have to read you your rights? Before they question you. That's it. They don't have to read you your rights when you're being arrested. They have to make you aware of rights at some point in the process, but it's not at the moment of arrest. Your rights about being questioned, those come a little bit later. And the main thing about reading someone their rights is that the stuff before you read them, the statements they make before you read them their rights, that is potentially inadmissible. Potentially inadmissible if it is extracted due to questioning and stuff like that. But reading someone Miranda rights is not a requisite aspect of an arrest. And I'll give you an example of feds arresting someone without Mirandizing them. I think it's Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, one of the Boston Marathon bombers. He was famously not Mirandized, even though he was chained in a hospital bed and under permanent guard, which he was not free to leave. He was definitely under arrest for all purposes of the Fourth Amendment. However, he was not Mirandized because they wanted to get information out of him that they could use, and that they didn't need that information to use against him in court. So you do not have to be Mirandized to be under arrest. And that was a federal arrest in the same way that these are federal arrests. Anyway, let's get back to it. This person has not identified themselves. Now, they haven't been asked to identify themselves by the feds yet. That all may happen inside the van. And this is where the legal ambiguity is. They have not been informed of what they're being arrested for in this video. And that is a requirement of arrest in Oregon, that you are given the probable cause for your arrest at the time of arrest. But I don't know if that means at the moment of your arrest or if these guys are allowed a 90-second interlude to get them into a vehicle and then make the arrest. I would prefer personally that you are informed of the probable cause surrounding your arrest at the moment the police approach you. But that might not be how the law is actually read out in federal court. And so I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong. I don't know. I would prefer, because, guys, I am, again, the least bootlick person on the planet. I want full transparency in all interactions between the state and the civilian. I want them to publicly and loudly announce why a person is being arrested. I want the identification of the person to be known to the people around. I want transparency in the follow-up. I want all of that to occur because I want to protect people from the state to the maximum. That being said, that's not how it always works out. That's just my ideals. But let's get back to it.
We got you, friend.
You don't have him. You don't even know his name. You have nothing on this guy at all.
You just violated their rights.
We have no idea if his rights are violated at this point at all. Nothing. Because they could get him in the van and say, by the way, you're being arrested for vandalizing a statue down on this street. We saw you there. We can positively identify you with photographic evidence. That's the probable cause. You can argue that it's not you in court. Peace. Rights not violated. I would argue that the rights are not violated at all in that place. Maybe it should be a violation of the rights. That's a different question. That's a question of principles. It's not a question of reality. E1337 Neo says, hey, Nick, found out earlier today I got hired at a new job that's going to pay me almost twice my prior one, so I can definitely be a little extra generous this evening. I raise my glass to you in the chat in celebration. This is why I learned to code. No longer a journalist. I don't know what you were before. Now a man or woman in coding. I am very happy to hear that you're going to make twice as much. I love stories of people making money. That is awesome. Fantastic. Do it. Get it. Rock it. Get promoted. Get even more. All right. And Nova Zero says, what if they're picking up undercover officers or informers? Because if that's true, I love the psyops. Can they actually do that and make the Antifa terrorists really paranoid? Miss you, Nikki. Yeah, absolutely. Police have no duty to tell you the truth. So they owe, like, let's say that the guy's a Fed, right? Someone said this looks like an asset extraction earlier. Let's say the guy's a Fed and he's like, oh, look, I didn't do anything. And then the other Feds come grab him and it looks like a snatch and grab, some sort of rendition. And the guy's going to go to a wet work and you'll never hear from him again. There's nothing illegal about that. And they owe no duty of truthfulness or transparency to the people around them. They can do that. We have no, we are not entitled to truth from the police. Again, let me be clear. I think we should be, because if I lie to the cops, I go to prison. If the cops lie to me, nothing happens. I think that's bad, but that's the way it is. So me thinking it's bad doesn't really have much impact at all. But that's how it is. No, they owe no duty. And yes, I know you love the duty of truthfulness to the people around them. They would only owe a duty of truthfulness to the person they're arresting when explaining the probable cause. And that's finito. That's it. Quan Lee says, I love your streams. However, I cannot always stick around. Do you ever stream earlier during the week? I have not, because my schedule has been really focused on doing an 11 o'clock show consistently. as possible, 4 to 5 days a week. And I have not. However, I got a proposition today from someone to add a weekly show. And it got me thinking. That maybe adding some daytime shows to the schedule is something I might be able to do. I would have to plan them out, but I would want them to be consistent. Angry Baneling mentions, yes, I did one yesterday. I did. And the thing with doing a show that is inconsistent outside of the time frame is there were about 1,000 less people. There are about 1,600 less people watching that show than there are this one. And that's because that's not part of the consistent schedule. So I am weighing and measuring the idea of doing a consistent earlier show in addition to the other shows. So we will see how that goes. I would love to do that. And the goal of those earlier shows would be to bring on other voices as well and to do something, specific and special to that. That's not just me ranting more at the camera. Because as much as I love me, and I think a lot of you like me, I don't want to I know a lot of streamers come out and just do stuff to do stuff. And I try really hard not to just do a thing. I try to have some at least loose agenda for a show, and I try to have something to say and contribute when doing a show so that I'm not wasting y'all's time. So that's how it goes. Like is a strong word. I agree. I said some of you. But anyway, let's get back to this. Here's some feds.
Know who you are.
What do you mean? The police. They're law enforcement agents. When a cop shows up, you don't always know what branch of police they are.
Are we supposed to know you're not kidnapping us and you're civilians kidnapping us?
Look at the effort that would take. And again, look at the effort that it would take to do this thing. You would have to LARP in a severe way to do this. And absolutely, somebody might do that, right? Like you dress up as feds and you walk around, you snatch people and put them in a minivan. That's terrifying. Yes, people could be kidnapped that way. You could do that with literally any uniform on the planet. There is no uniform that will protect you from the possibility that someone is snatching you illegally. Because there is no exclusive uniform that no one can replicate. These people, again, if these are cops, assuming they're Fed cops, which I think is safe to assume, they are identified as law enforcement officers. Dram Springfield says, when cops show up, you don't know which branch showed up. They're required to do that. Where? You are supposed to identify them as law enforcement officers, not necessarily which branch of law enforcement. And without a citation to law or either a statute or case law, I'm going to be suspicious of that claim. Necessarily required to be identifiable by their unit, right? When you're being arrested, they may have to tell you, God, fucking buffering. They may have to tell you when they are arresting you, what branch they're from. They may have to identify themselves in that way. But that being said, I know you mentioned that the badge on their chest, the exclusive uniform is the badge on their chest and the patches on their shoulder. But again, badges and patches can be faked. So that being said, the badges and patches are not codified into law, and they're not part of the case law that I've seen. The case law that I've seen has to be that they are identifiable as uniformed police officers, or they're putting you into a marked squad car. One of those two. It is pretty hard to suggest that these are not uniformed police officers. And take one moment and look at how every videographer is referring to these guys. Are they treating these people like they are anything other than cops or agents of the state? Anything at all? Of course they're agents of the state, and of course they've identified them as agents of the state. Of course they have. They're not treating them like kidnappers or LARPers or anything else. They all believe that these are agents of the state. Flat out. Clearly a law enforcement agent of the state. It's not my bit rate that's the problem. My side has zero problems with bitrate or anything else. I'm live monitoring it. It's not me. It's YouTube. I don't know how else to explain this, guys. YouTube has had a huge influx of traffic since COVID. And that is just the way that YouTube has gone. Now, with YouTube's influx of traffic comes bitrate problems on the back end. But my upload rate today is solid and stable. It wasn't the other day. You'll know when my bitrate goes down because it will be way worse than what's going on. But anyway, I have gigabyte internet. I don't know. There's not faster internet. There's not a better provider. There's not anything I can do to increase it. It's literally on this occasion, it is YouTube. The only time I ever have problems on my end are when there are maintenance issues or I'm on the Wi-Fi. So, Dram Springfield says, would you Fed not state? And would you care to get banned for asking them? There's no indication that anybody has been banned for asking what's going on. Now, again, I'm opposed to this. I'm opposed to what is happening. I've stated this a couple times. I don't like Fed snatch and grab. I don't trust the feds. I don't even trust the state. I don't trust local police. I don't trust any of them. However, whether or not their actions are legal is a different question as to whether or not I like them. But anyway, here we go. Here we go. Look at this. They're just throwing out these smoke grenades. No big deal. They threw something. I don't know if you noticed this. Let's go back a second, because it seems a little crazy. But something does fly in at the officers here. Looks like a water bottle. And then immediately, I don't want to get shot by pepper spray paint pellets at all. That would suck. Oh, God, that would hurt. There's a 40 or 20 Mike, 40 Mike, I don't know. Another tear gas grenade. These guys are just walk and chill with their thing. Look, there's a can that came flying in at the bottom of the screen there. Now, as much as I don't want to get shot with pepper spray pellets, I would much rather get shot with them than a bullet. They're taking down the barricades here, it looks like. Okay, whatever this is. Oh, Christ. Okay. So that is that. That is some of the video there. And again, we have this, we all have these conflicting things going on, right? Like, I'm conflicted because I don't want the feds to do what they're doing in any way. But I also have to analyze the legality of what's going on within the present law. And if one of the people in there were to argue, as the city of Portland, by the way, has filed a federal lawsuit against the feds, trying to enjoin them or prevent them from arresting any more Portlandians. I don't think they can do that generally because federal law enforcement agents have a right to enforce federal law. In fact, they have an obligation to enforce federal law in the way that they see fit. That being said, they may be able to get them to stop unlawfully arresting and detaining Portlandians, and as they should. And the usefulness of that declaration from a judge would be to lay out what things they are doing wrong and prevent them going forward. And I think that's a worthy thing to do. Are they going to be able to stop all federal arrests in Portland? No, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't. There is a separation of powers, not just at the between government branches, but also because of federalism at the state and federal level. You should not be able to stop the federal government from enforcing federal law within a city, nor should the federal government be able to stop states from enforcing state laws within their own borders. So, that being said, I don't think their lawsuit will be generally effective, and if it were, it would be appealed and it would go up to the Supreme Court if necessary. That, however, it may be limited effective in a good way in defining what bad practices they have had and clarifying under the Oregon procedure where the feds are doing the wrong things, so that, one, we know. That's the beauty of it. There's transparency in the legal process through the courts, that we will know what bad things the feds are doing, and the feds will also be told what things they cannot do under Oregon law, and then we can judge their actions even more appropriately from that point on. So we'll have to watch that Fed suit, and I will see if I can find it and take a look at what allegations are actually in it, what evidence they have to support it. Oh, I do have another video I need to pull up. Let me see here if I can. Give me just a second. I need this one with me. We've got another video to watch in just a minute. The city of Portland filed video evidence in court in response to Don't Shoot Portland's lawsuit. So this was 18 days ago now. 18? No, I can't do math. 14 days ago. We'll look at that in a minute. But it's funny. 14 days ago, the city of Portland is arguing for more authority to police these people. But now, because Trump is involved. And make no mistake, guys, I hate to do this. I hate to make it about this. But the mayor of Seattle's a Democrat and Trump is Trump. So, of course, when Trump deploys feds or mayor of Portland, not Seattle. Yes, also Seattle. But the mayor of Portland's a Democrat and Trump is Trump. So there's an inherent conflict going on that is political that changes the scope of all of this stuff. So their resistance, just to be clear. Oh, the motherfucking buffering. Okay, anyway. But we'll watch the video that the city of Portland submitted in just a minute. So, women in Portland form wall of moms to protect protesters from federal officers. Who cares about this stupid thing? Let's take a look at this. A group of women banded together to form a human wall to protect protesters from Fed officers in Portland over the weekend. There have been 52 days and nights of protests since the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Again, let's not forget that they are protesting a bad cop's bad actions 1,000 miles away. 1,000 miles away. That is what has put the city of Portland under 52 days and nights of protests, many of which have devolved into violent riots and other such travesties. But which have turned violent after federal authorities have been sent in earlier this month. Oh, they weren't violent after the federal authorities had been sent in earlier this month. They were violent prior to the federal authorities being sent in earlier this month. Make no mistake, whether or not, look, protests are not ubiquitous groups of people. They're individuals. There's violence in these protests from the start. They're violent people. Now, sometimes that violence spills over from individuals into groups of people and into something that takes and captivates the attention of a city, for example, because the violence is so much bigger than just a small isolated incident. It's not a garbage can being thrown through a window, right? It's buildings being burned to the ground. It's setting up zones and having violent confrontations with police. Like all of that stuff, that was all happening before federal authorities had been sent. Anyway, let me read a couple of these chats here and then we'll get back to it. One Angry Weeb says, Nick, say what you want about the government tyranny concerns. All that being said, it makes my inner American stir with pride to see these Reds black bagged and flash banged. Perhaps I'm just hypocritical. Maybe you are. It's okay. Like, it's okay to be hypocritical, even if you... hypocrisy is not a valid counter argument. That's a fallacy. The fallacy of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is not a valid counter argument. That's not an argument. That being said, you know, people can be hypocritical on things and not be wrong or not be right. That's independent. For me, I don't want to see anybody black bagged, and I don't want to see people flash banged. Now, I'm not saying that a flashbang is never called for, but someone getting snatched up without process, assuming that the process isn't there, bothers me. I don't have the evidence to support the fact that there isn't enough process for these people. What I do have are my suspicions and my skepticism of the feds and the state authorities. But that's it. That's all I've got to operate on. So I just want to make sure that process is being followed when all of this is happening. Okay. And then Idea Machine says, Rekieta Law presents late and during the day. P.S. Are you trying to get Ron's transcriber more working hours? Yes. Yes, I am. Okay. After a Facebook post called for mothers to make a wall of moms, dozens wearing white and helmets attended Saturday. They stood arm in arm with each other, forming a barrier between federal agents and demonstrators. The gathering came after a report that federal officials from a number of agencies had been driving around and detaining people. We moms are often underestimated, organizer Rev Barnum said in the event page, but we're stronger than we're given credit for. So this is from Lindsay Smith. This protester says more than half of people injured by police are disabled. That just because a protester says it doesn't make it true. More than half of people injured by police are disabled. I'm going to press a giant X to doubt on that. That is a ludicrous statement. They say police should not respond to situations they're not trained for. There you go. Good. Yeah, I agree. They shouldn't. Whatever that means. This group, who says they're moms against police brutality, is making a barricade at Oh man, I was hoping we would get a big thing there. Look at that. That's a wall of moms. Dear feds, just another brick in the wall. Leave our kids alone. Rest in peace, Quancy, killed by police. PDX, BLM, fist, and a dark fist. Pissed off father, leave our kids alone. He wasn't allowed in the wall of moms. So that's, there you go. Let's see what else we've got. To be clear, I haven't seen different behavior from protesters tonight. The lack of response from police so far is definitely because of the demographic of the crowd. We would have been tear gassed by now on a normal night. And then feds are out. They shove the moms. Lots of tear gas and flashbangs. Let's watch this 30-second video and see how much a lot is. Oh, shoot. Look at the level of muscle mass and chadness happening in this wall. I'm gonna point that out. We've got some big, intimidating dudes tipping the scales all the way up at 150 pounds. Sorry, that was the flashbang. So that was the lots of tear gas and flashbangs. Now, I mean, there may have been lots of tear gas and flashbangs, but if you're going to show a video, you should maybe show more than one flashbang being sent out in the open. It's not in a confined space. Those people weren't overly fazed by it. But yeah, and again, I don't know. But what do they expect? You're encroaching in. This is a federal courthouse, I believe, that they're protecting, because it said the feds came out. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the federal courthouse building that they are. It's literally their job to prevent it from being damaged. One woman who participated with the moms called the actions of federal officers terrifying. We, as a democracy, we need to stand up, she told Reuters. I'm 60 years old. I probably shouldn't be here in public, but this is beyond acceptable. Videos of the event show them chanting, "The feds stay clear. The moms are here." Here we go. Are you ready? Copyright this song, probably. Mothers in helmets stood arm in arm and formed a human wall to protect demonstrators in Portland from federal officers amid protests in the city. Prepare to be intimidated.
Stay clear! The moms are here! Let's stay clear! The moms are here! Let's stay clear!
The moms are here! Feds stay clear! The moms are here!
Let's stay clear! The moms are here!
It's always a chant. It is always some lame chant. What is it about the left that they think that chanting is somehow like they come up with a cheesy rhyme and that the chant gives them power? Is it some hearkening back to druidic rituals? I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know what the chanting has to do with it, but it's at every single weird lefty thing. If you're a lefty, and by the way, I love lefties. I love liberals. I really, I'm so liberal on so many issues. They don't really come through very well in video, but I am, especially on defense issues. But I gotta know, because I don't get it. I don't get the nature of protests in general. Why the chant? What's up with the chanting? Okay, here we go. Let's get some more discussion here.
Actions are terrifying. I mean, we as a democracy, and we need to stand up. I'm 60 years old. I probably shouldn't be
Literally just what was quoted above. Thank you.
here in public, but this is beyond acceptable.
Why? I mean, I don't know. I don't know that it's... What is this? What is beyond acceptable? Like, what is the this that they're talking about? because I know what my thises are. I don't know what their thises are, because that was just a this. Mothers also participated on Sunday, too, wearing yellow shirts and locking their arms together. Mothers stand between federal law enforcement officers and protesters, they're little cute boys, during a protest against racial inequality in Portland, Oregon. Although they campaigned against the use of tear gas, federal officers still deployed it on Saturday and Sunday, Portland police said. I'm sorry. Well, we campaigned against police, against tear gas. Bloom, 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 bloom. What did you expect? What did you think they were going to do? Well, we told them we didn't want the tear gas. Oh, my God. Oh, boy. President Trump signed an executive order in June which deployed federal agents to protect federal monuments and buildings in cities such as Portland. Federal courthouse in Portland, where many of the protests have held, is under their jurisdiction. Don't. I would strongly advise people against defacing federal property. Because you may live in a Democrat city that will walk away from police buildings. But you got feds that won't walk away from that Fed building. Oof. And again, it's never about what's right is dealt with in court. What's right is dealt with in court. This is about keeping yourself from being snatched. It's about keeping yourself from being gassed. I can tell you where I wouldn't be. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, a Democrat, said on CNN's State of the Union on Sunday that the presence of federal officers is actually leading to more violence. They are not wanted here. We have asked them. We have not asked them here, and in fact, we want them to leave, Wheeler said. Well, sorry. It's federal property, and you're not protecting it. If you're not going to protect the federal property, the feds will do that. Wheeler and other Oregon officials have blamed the Trump administration for the escalation of rental cars. Apparently, they're being denied probable cause and due process. I want to know more about this. I want to know more about this because this might actually be a violation of rights. So talk about it. Tell us about it. Give us an example. Tell me whose rights are being violated so I can empathize with them, sympathize with them, and get on your side against the feds. I don't like the feds any more than I like your dumbass. So who is it? What are they doing? Give me details, but they don't. They don't. They don't even know who's pulling them into the vans. How do you know that? The people are not identifying themselves. Again, they are identified. They are identifiably police. And we don't know what's happening inside the van. So maybe this is happening. Maybe, but I don't know. I don't have the facts. As far as I can see, this is completely unconstitutional. And Mr. Trump tweeted Sunday that his administration working to help Portland not hurt it. Their leadership has, for months, lost control of the anarchists and agitators. They're missing in action. We must protect federal property and our people. I love Trump's use of capitals. It makes me laugh every time. So that's Portland, man. What a mess Portland has become. And here's the thing, though. If you are going to retreat in the face of protests as a state or municipal police force, fine. But you don't get to retreat from the federal property and have the feds not want to protect it. That's theirs. What was that? They have the authority to defend federal property. They do. It's great. So if the municipal police won't, the feds can step in. It's an interesting question of power between the state and federal governments. I'm very curious how it will play out in courts. I really am. I don't know. You never know how supremacy will play out. You can make good guesses. I think the feds win here unless they're doing blatantly unconstitutional acts. But this is a 5-minute video. I don't know that we're going to show the whole thing, but let's do this. The city of Portland filed video evidence in court in response to Don't Shoot Portland's lawsuit. The city is opposed to the nonprofit Don't Shoot Portland's motion for a preliminary injunction, which would further bar officers' use of tear gas and less lethal rounds as crowd control measures. These videos are excerpts. Now, as you can see, this is a peaceful demonstration going on for the purposes of protesting police violence in Minneapolis, 1,000 miles away. Here we go. Look at them telling the police what is up. This is great. They are really letting the police know that their violent methods are uncalled for in this instance. Notice the cheers and the yelling. That has nothing to do with the fact that they're looting a store. It has everything to do with the fact that they are trying to stop police violence right there. Let's get this next one. I don't know what happens next. This is new for me. This guy's got, is that a gun? Is he? He's set up with a gun at the back of this car, pointing it at federal agents? Gun! Gun! Hey! Hey!
Not on the back of this car, unlicensed.
Who's he pointing the gun at? I legitimately don't know. Here we go. These guys are firing something. They're just burning stuff. That's great. This is how, again, this is how you show the police that their violent actions are unacceptable. You firebomb garbage cans. Are you guys so incapable of taking out a city garbage can or whatever that is? Jesus. We're going to make a bonfire in the street. This will be fine. Don't worry about this. There's no safety concerns. This is definitely not violation of the law happening here. This should be a Portland travel video. Come to Portland, where all of your dreams can come true. Enjoy the food, enjoy the pleasant company, enjoy the gunfire, the smell of burning rubber and other materials. It's a beautiful city of Portland. The streets are cleaned and maintained for your pleasure. Third degree isn't enough is on the wall there. And this is, again, relating to the George Floyd accusation. When he was just charged, when Derek Chauvin was just charged with third-degree murder, before they upcharged him to second-degree murder, which, by the way, my prediction is that they will have a very hard time getting second-degree murder to stick. I think third-degree murder is an appropriate charge. Whether or not they can prove it out in court will be a different question. That's a question for the court. I do think, based on the evidence I've seen, second-degree murder makes no sense. No sense. But the facts never matter to the mob. Ever. Look! Just burn a bank. That's fine. What's a bank anyway? Yeah, Chase Bank. Fuck you, police. Let's just bust open the bank. What could happen if you bust open a bank other than the police losing money and resources? Now they're burning a statue or something. I'm probably going to get copyright claim for this sick beat in the background. Want to know why feds have been deployed to Portland? You want to know why? Oh, mother fucking thing. Let's go back just a second here. If you want to know why feds are deployed to Portland, I'll show you in just a minute.
So as you can tell, they've ripped all the plywood off of the front of the Justice or of the federal building.
Yeah.
Which leaves it exposed.
It's exposed, man. We'll do the Vic filing in just a minute, by the way. Oh, they threw like milk or orange juice at him. Rude. Might have been urine. You never know. More stuff coming in. By the way, these guys are helmeted, which is helpful, but getting hit by a full bottle of liquid that is lobbed over several feet, especially if the plastic cap were to make contact with you, that hurts a lot. That can cause severe injury as well if it were to hit a sensitive area like the eyes or the ears, something like that. It's not an innocuous thing to lob a full bottle of liquid at somebody. Those things can actually cause damage. Oh, we have another very peaceful protest. Look at all these protests are peaceful. Everything's fine. Don't even worry about it. Do you guys, are you like me? Like when I see a fire where a fire isn't supposed to be, and not on the property of the person who, like, not on the person who owns its property, right? Like, on a street, for example. I think of a fire in the middle of the road as an inherently violent act. That's not a peaceful act of protest. You're destroying things, you're destroying an area, you're blocking off an area, you're exerting force. That's not peaceful. I don't know when we got this weird thing in our heads where we're like, oh, look, it's got to be peaceful protests unless they're literally stabbing people. No, this is not peace. This is fucking fire. This guy's got a screen door to protect him.
Put it out! Put it out!
Why would you do this? Because they're ridiculous. There's another fire over there, another peaceful fire. Mid-First Bank, baby. Wait, is that Mid-First Bank? Tell me that's Mid-First Bank. Tell me they're getting revenge for DSP. I don't think so. I don't know what that is.
You are to disperse now. Riot control agents and impact munitions will be used against you if you fail.
No, that's Mid-K. Okay, riot munitions, you disperse now. Riot police and munitions will be deployed. Awesome. What a terrifying message. We will send in the riot police and some munitions. You will be punished. Get rid of it. Where's Ed 209? You have 20 seconds to comply. Where is it? Okay. All right. Let me pull up let's take a it's already 1. So let's take a side jaunt from Portland. Portland's a disaster. And I had a run in on Twitter with some people because they referred to me as a bootlick because based on this, I said that people who routinely vilify gun owners, right? Like, and Second Amendment advocates and all of that stuff should not expect those people to come rushing to their rescues. If you call them crazies, fetishists, Nazi, racist, murderers, whatever you want to call and label people on the right who support, or left, who support the Second Amendment vociferously and who do stockpile guns and buy ammo. If you want to demonize them, then you expect them to run in and raise arms against federal agents? Really? Like that's what you're thinking is going to happen here? That's the right thing to do? That people are arguing with me over that. They're like, well, it's hypocrisy. Well, I don't care if it's hypocrisy. Again, like you're talking about people going out and brandishing guns against federal agents for you, but you vilify those people. Go away. Like you vilify these people on a daily basis. You want them to come out. You want them to come out and risk their lives, their liberty, their rights for you? Why the fuck would they? I don't understand why anybody thinks, again, I would never expect an Antifa person or a Black Lives Matter person to come protesting on my behalf. Something about melanin counts comes to mind. Like, it's not the DMs. It's all over my Twitter wall. It was nothing in DMs. But, like, let's say a cop killed me. Is Black Lives Matter going to protest? Much less come in and start shooting the police to save me? Of course not. Of course not. So why do they expect anybody to come save them? It's a very weird idea that's going on. Let me briefly talk about the Second Amendment, okay? The Second Amendment is about your personal protection against tyranny, against government intrusion, against violation of your rights by state or non-state actors. Now, using your Second Amendment rights against the state is a very, very tenuous and fragile thing. And here's how it looks. If you gather en masse to have a legit peaceful protest, exercise your freedom of assembly, and you are carrying lawfully, I would wager you are less likely to be tear gassed, abducted, tased, pepper sprayed, and everything else. You're also less likely to have weirdos running around burning everything in sight or putting people in danger, because if you do, they might get shot. So that being said, if you notice, the peaceful protests that do involve open carry people don't turn violent. It's like there's this magical thing where, oh, the protest turned violent. No, it didn't. It didn't turn violent. It's not a thing that turns violent. Like, oh, this just happened. No. Some violent elements did things that were violent. Always use passive language with the left. Oh, protest turned violent. It didn't. And if you notice, again, right-wing protests that involve lots of firearms don't turn violent. Look to Michigan. They peacefully protested the governor's mask order, despite the fact they're all they're all holding guns, they're bearing arms, assault rifles, and all of the fun stuff at the Capitol building, peacefully protesting. Journalists are freaking out. Legislators are freaking out. Everybody's talking about how they're wearing bulletproof vests and they calling security. Who got shot? Who got shot, though? Nobody. What got burned? Nothing. What got looted? What store was raided? What private interest was burned to the ground? None of them. Why? Why didn't that situation turn violent? I don't know. I can't figure it out. Jeez. Just can't figure out what would have stopped people from turning violent other than maybe a massive amount of potential counter violence readily available. So anyway, but yeah, these are the people that are demonized. The people who do this, who do have guns, who do carry them, are demonized daily by the people who are leading these Antifa style protests. So why should they show up for them? Why should they? It's your personal responsibility to defend yourself. It is. The Second Amendment right is a personal right, as well as a militia mandate. It's a personal right. They're two different things. We know they're two different things because Scalia told us so in Heller, DC versus Heller, that the mandate for a well-regulated militia is separate from the individual right to bear arms. Okay, treat it that way. Defend yourself. Arm up. If all these Antifa people actually armed up, I think there would be much less violence. There would be less looting. There'd be less risk around. Now, of course, the problem with many of them arming up might be their felony records, stuff like that. But listen, let's not go that far. But anyway, okay. So this is an update on the Vic case that I wanted to talk about. It's not much of an update, so do not expect a bunch of profound statements, but there is some very important stuff that has happened. So this is the appeals court. The case has been set for submission without oral argument. That is big. On Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. So about 2 months from now. Before a panel consisting of Chief Justice Sudderth, Justice Womack, and Justice Wallach. This panel is subject to change. See Texas Rules of Appellate Procedure 39.8. No later than 10 days before the scheduled submission date, a party may, but is not required to, submit to the court 3 paper copies of the party's brief as a courtesy for the panel. So this is the big development is that there will not be oral argument despite requests from every party to have oral argument. Now that means not much. That means not much. But it does mean that likely the justices have made up their mind one way or another, and that oral argument they feel would be counterproductive. Now, you can read into this. We could try and parse it out and determine that, well, maybe they're going just on submissions because COVID makes the oral argument thing sort of tedious and they're really limiting them. I don't know. I've heard that they're taking less oral arguments lately during COVID. That I can't substantiate that, and I can't give it any credibility. This is something I've heard, but that doesn't mean anything in regards to this case. And that's something that's important to appeals cases in general. Doesn't mean anything in regards to this appeal. This appeal is its own animal. Now, interestingly, Chief Justice Sudderth is the person who wrote the opinion in Vanderlinden versus Kahn, which is a case that's heavily cited in this dispute. Heavily cited by both sides. Vanderlinden v. Kahn, it plays on both sides of this lawsuit, and Chief Justice Sudderth wrote Vanderlinden versus Kahn. I have not looked further than whether or not, into any of the other captions to see if these justices are on those panels and how they fall on them. I will see if I can do some research on that in the coming days and weeks. But for now, we know that there will not be an oral argument, and the case is set for submission on September 22nd, which means we should have a ruling in about 2 months on the Vic thing. Again, I cannot stress enough that appeals are hard. Appeals favor, generally, the lower court's ruling. So I'm not out here trying to fluff up the idea of the appeal. The without oral argument, you could say, well, that favors the idea that they're going to affirm the lower courts. It does no such thing. It does no such thing. It just as much favors the idea they're going to affirm the lower courts as they are going to overturn the lower courts. And there's no like percentage likelihood of success. Mike Fat Dumford came out today and he's like, well, I had given the fees being overturned on appeal a 50-50 chance because he's fucking retarded. I can't stress enough. That is the dumbest take, and that should discredit just about any other of his arguments on appeals. That was the dumbest thing he could have said, that he had given them a 50-50 chance. Guys, you basically never on appeals have a 50-50 chance of overturning the appeals court. What the hell are you talking about, you ridiculous virgin weirdo? Like, I don't know what is going through his mind. I can't figure it out. But remember, this guy is jerking off and orgasming over that reply brief constantly. Oh, it's the best thing in the world. DSPing all over that reply brief from Rial and Toye, despite the fact that I pointed out those citations were just wrong. Not only they're wrong, they're badly wrong. But he's sitting there, oh, this is great. Yeah, this is the best reply ever. The only thing more genetic that I've seen among law Twitter than genetic fallacy is genetic defect. Mike Dunford personifies this issue. These people think they develop effective based on who the speaker is, not the merit of what's being said. And that is an indictment of all of them. If I came out tomorrow and said the most milquetoast legal opinion possible, they would all disagree. In fact, they actually did a couple months back. When I said, this is back at the beginning of the Floyd shit, and I gave a general statement that I was opposed to police violence, and they inherently and automatically disagreed with my position because they assumed that even though what they read was plainly in front of them, that because I said it, it must mean something different than what they read. That's how defective these people actually are. They think that because someone says it, that must make, that's what matters. Who said it? Not what's being said. And this is the problem with all of them. Mike Dunford is just the latest flunky to waddle into this. And he definitely waddles into it. But let's be clear. If you put the fees being overturned at 50% ever, you're ridiculous. And similarly, you will never catch me saying that Vic has a 50-50 chance of overturning the lower court's ruling. I've said over and over and over again that we have, one, there is no like statistical basis, but to the extent that there is a statistical basis on appeals, an uphill battle for Vic. And his chances are really tough. I don't like to put number percentages on them because that's idiotic. But Vic has a hard road to overturn an existing ruling. It doesn't happen very often. It does happen daily, but the amount of the amount of cases that are appealed versus overturned, you can't make a statistical argument that it's a good prospect ever. But they do. You make the best shot that you've got. So what does this mean? Without oral argument, it means that either they think that the case is such a rock solid case for Vic, that the evidence is clear, that there's some defamation and tortious interference going on, that they want to have this go back to the lower court for, to be sussed out, or they think that they just didn't present anything. That's it. That's all we can know. That they're not going to be swayed by oral argument. The judges do not have questions related to these issues. They think the issues are sufficiently briefed for them to make the decision. And that's what we know. And it could be they think the defamation is solid. They think the TI is weak. They think the TI is solid. They think the defamation is weak. They think that's all weak. They think it's all solid. We won't know. And there's no sense speculating on it at all. There really isn't. And again, having the Chief Justice Sudderth being the person who wrote the Khan decision doesn't make a difference for either party, because both parties cited heavily to Khan. And the question will be whether she thinks that this party read Khan correctly or the other party read Khan correctly. So and then the other two justices, of course, matter as well. So we will see what happens. It's up to the judges at this point. There is no oral argument. I wish there was. Oral argument, I think, is always useful for the judge. Oral argument is not great for making legal points, but it is great to at least say, Judge, this is what this is actually about. And you may end up swaying the judges one way or another. It's unlikely, but you at least get a shot to do it and to put the narrative stuff that you couldn't really put in your appellate briefs. So we will see what happens on September 22nd. We now have a target date, and this will be great. I mean, we'll see. But again, I don't want to set people's expectations high. And since the appeals, I have never attempted in any way to set people's expectations high. Vic has a chance to appeal. He very likely could lose the appeal. It's very possible he will win the appeal. The important thing is we have seen so much about what these people were actually accusing him of. And we will see. You get to decide. Because Vic brought the suit, you guys get to decide your own opinion of him. Nothing else. Whether he wins or loses, by the way, the same remains true. The same remains true. If he wins, the evidence is out there and you get to say, well, I agree or disagree. If he loses, the evidence is out there and you get to say, well, I agree or disagree. So we'll see how it goes. I'm anxious to see it. Nervous, of course. I hope he wins. I really do. One, it would bring another 6 months to a year of laughs to the channel. So I hope he wins. Two, I like the guy, so I hope he wins. That being said, if he doesn't, and he moves on. And then, he gets to go on rebuilding his life and putting this behind him. So there's benefit to that as well in some ways, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay. That's what we got for tonight, y'all. I think I need to wrap up. We'll read the justice chats, then the super chats, as we are wont to do, and then we will go come join me on twitch.tv/Rekieta Law, and on Twitch we will watch something with a watch party. I'm looking forward to that. Have any of you guys checked out Ghosts of Tsushima or whatever yet? Have any of you guys checked that out? I think it comes out, or it just came out, right? What's the movie? I don't know. What should we watch? It's kind of thinking Beastmaster or Anaconda. I was kind of thinking of picking up Ghost of Tsushima. Is it on PC or is it just a stupid PlayStation game? If it's PlayStation exclusive, I no longer care. Beastmaster? Beastmaster sounds good. Masters of the Universe isn't on Prime. It's PS4 only? Oh, screw it. Who cares? Never mind, I don't care about it. Because I can't buy it and play it. So anyway, it's not really... It just got 3 beers uglier to me. Okay, let's do these super chats. We'll do Beastmaster. Wait, Reign of Fire is on Prime? I love that movie. We're going to do Beastmaster. And then maybe we'll do something else afterwards. But Beastmaster to start. Okay. Butter Thine Muffin says you should check if Donut Operator could be a guest to talk about law enforcement agency actions in Portland. He's former LEO. I mean, maybe. I don't know if he'd want to come on this show or not. Anthony James says public service announcement. If you see a FedEx dude walking up to your door, shoot him first before he can shoot you. No, don't shoot the FedEx. Just be cautious when you open the door, especially if you're related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Lukoa has best thighs. Nick, these Antifa figs would laugh their soy tits off if feds were snatching gun-carrying citizens from the streets. Truth. We have to engage them on their terms. Hashtag gotta snatch them all. That was a point that I raised on Twitter, and people were like, no, they wouldn't. It's like they literally do all the time. Anytime someone on the right, a gun-toting right-winger or whatever is picked up or put down in some way, these guys riot. They love it. It's their and the good riots. Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. Which is why I don't... These Hands says, wow, Mr. Lovecraft, your cat really likes me. What was his name again? What was his cat's name? I think it was bad. These Hands says, reminder that Nick did a stream with Law of Self-Defense, and there is such a thing as self-defense insurance. Go rewatch that stream to learn about what self-defense insurance is before you go get your brand new firearm. Watch out for lakes. Is this stream buffer again? I'm going to lose my mind. Bad Dragonite says, from what I know, most of them aren't being arrested or at least not charged. They're just being held for questioning away from the mob. Leftists are salty that they can't enact mob violence on these guys because they adapted. They're reeing all over. Now, interestingly, the police can detain you without actually arresting you. Those short detentions need to be pretty specific, though. Ethical Dilemma says, I also do not agree with the tactics that the feds may be using, but at this point, with the Democratic leaders in these states and cities refusing to do anything, it sets a horrible precedent that as long as you do bad stuff for what's right, you won't be punished. Right. I mean, civil disobedience is still disobedience, and you have to pay the consequences. Civil disobedience without consequence is meaningless. Bad Dragonite. Oh, wait, no. Siren Jag says, what exactly do they do in the court when the case is set for submission without oral argument? They already have all the documents, so what are they doing? They're writing their opinions. Bad Dragonite says, all these riots and fake crying by leftists make me almost feel less libertarian. Like, fuck it, let's increase police violence. I disagree. They're worried cops are being impersonated. Give them Spartan power armor as uniforms. That's hard to impersonate. Screw it. I get your thing, but I don't share the opinion, but I like it. Okay. The cat's name was Gamer Word Man. Oh my goodness. Phoenix Orem says, justice for Awu. Jillian Seed says, can Drex beat Moro now that Goku got owned? Yes. Yes. Shadows King 101 says, F. I love Adblock says, how do you feel about the son of a federal judge working on the Epstein case being gadded by a person in a FedEx uniform? I mean, I don't feel good about anybody getting gadded in any ways. Sounds terrible. I don't want to be killed. But I'm not working on an Epstein case. But it's amazing, right? Like, we're all just ignoring the fact that there are high-profile executions happening right in front of us on a major case that involves a bunch of elites. And everybody's just like, news like, well, you know, maybe it was the cartel or whatever that she prosecuted a couple years ago. Yeah, maybe it was that guy. He finally got around to organizing it. You're right. That's what it was. It's not about the case that was assigned on Thursday. Whew. Nya says, is this enough money for another frame? No, it never is. The Atomisk says, you both took the Bernie thing the wrong way. I meant the way he says the word corporations. My super chat wasn't that deep. It's not just you, the Atomisk. Go check out the comments, man. They're pretty vicious. I loved it. Bad Dragonite says, YouTube taking notes from Nintendo for connection. Oh my God. Bad Vibes says, YouTube needs Drano. How they use it, well, that's a different suggestion. Automata says, Nick's stream didn't buffer itself. Adamus says, Snake. Falling Floor says, here's to help with your monthly tribute to the ISP gods so they don't smite you for a minute again. God, it sucks when this happens. Solemn says, to the interest of motherfunkin' buffering. Anonymity T says, you watching Snatch or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels tonight? Snatch is not on Prime. I don't think Lock, Stock is either. I love Snatch. It's a great movie. Automata says, next you'll tell me that people with airbags don't intend to crash into stuff. Mars Ultor says, Nikki, stop being so sensitive about your hair. I've never seen better results from a Flowbee. You should be proud. Cut me deep. Mr. Schwaggins says, look up Bola Rap on YouTube. Best non-lethal weapon I can't own legally, yet I can own an AR-15 legally. Also, how is Tiger Lady something legal to carry? I have no idea. What's Bola Rap? Sounds horrifying. CJ says, get Terrence Pop on to discuss NG and militia. Oh, National Guard and militia. Tamara Holloway says, can they be snatched under section 1021 of the NDAA? I don't know what that is. 1021. Probably not. Just the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2012. No. Let me just say no. The detention sections of the NDAA begin by affirming that the authority of the president of the authorized use of military force against terrorists. The AUMF against terrorists relates pretty specifically to people involved with the 9/11 attack. Now, again, not being fully read up and not being an expert on this, but let me humbly suggest that there is not a logical connection between Antifa and the Twin Towers at this point in time that they would be able to put under the AUMF. Therefore, the NDAA probably does not apply. Finfrog says, invasion of the commie snatchers. Oh no! Mr. Schwagen says, opinion on Boston judge disregarding prosecutors' wish to not charge some disorderly conduct protesters, similar to Flynn's situation. man, again, if the government doesn't want to make the charge, then why are we trying to make them make the charge? That runs afoul of individual rights, and I don't like it. Even if I don't like the people being charged, if the feds don't want to do it or the state doesn't want to do it, a judge shouldn't be trying to force a prosecutor into prosecuting someone. That's not a judge's job. Polyfrog64 says, I live streamed Portland riots last night. They claim cops shot first, but they tore down the fence, barricaded the agents, and tried to burn them alive. You know, I mean, whatever. It's no big deal. Red Guy, I don't think I missed your chat yet. Where was it? Was it a justice chat or a super chat, Red Guy? Anyway, back to this. Lady Lajdak says, don't we run into issues with them not identified correctly? Are DHS or marshals allowed to say police open up while not wearing correct letters? Correct lettering? What's the correct lettering? The law enforcement, from what I've seen in Oregon, and I'm happy to be corrected on this, I just haven't seen it yet. Oh, Red Guy, I'll get you. Under Corin, I think I did miss that one. There it is. Oh, I'll get it in just a second. I'm happy to be corrected on this, but I haven't seen anything with a legal citation attached to it. They're merely required to identify themselves as law enforcement, not necessarily a particular group of law enforcement. Now, that all changes as the process goes on, but on the streets, law enforcement identification is what is needed. And I think that the courts will determine that their uniform presence that says police, that has them in a uniform of camo fatigues with tactical equipment on, I think they will determine that that is sufficient. And I think the evidence is pretty clear that everyone who sees them knows that these guys are law enforcement. You may not know which particular branch of government it is, but I haven't seen anything entitling someone to that. So that being said, I may be wrong on that. And if I am, I will very, very happily correct it. Corin 42 says, I feel like this whole situation would be different if the police were ordered to defend their station instead of running away. It set the precedent of doing nothing. People would start thinking twice after about 3 to 4 bodies drop. Now, I don't want the police to kill anybody. But there are, I mean, the police, the police could have enforced. They could have enforced and protected their property, and they didn't. Okay, Mr. Ed Gov name Monica Rial says, be sure to name your cat Naggerman, chat. That is probably safer. Diana Bernstein says, today, Agent 47, your target is the son of Judge Esther Salas. Clinton has paid the organization good money for this. Do what you do best. Good luck, 47. Codeman 2400. Yes. Those are both on the agenda. Bad Vibe says, I like you like I like Tapatio ramen. It is tasty, spicy, and filling, but not cheap for ramen. Polyfrog64 says, those water bottles are frozen like a brick. They tried to burn the agents alive. Antifa used human shields, arson, spears, knives, explosives, and more. Polyfrog also says, these are rioters, not protesters. I streamed it. Very interesting. Polyfrog, where can people find your stream? Serial Fox at E4chan's party van is best van. Sonic 15 says, all these women are bad mothers. Polyfrog says, if these people get their way, it's off to the gulag for us all. These people will purge us if they take power, just like Mao and Stalin. Can't wait. Yep. Koofer Boomer, I have talked to Lord Darkside Phil, and DSP might be on the show later this week, Thursday or Friday. We're trying to work it out. We had a very good chat, so that was covered at the beginning of the show. The Izzy experience is not going to lie, Nick. I want a refund on my super chat. That was not lots of flashbangs and tear gas. Sorry. Sorry about that. Polyfrog64 says, justice and peace. Let's go, police. Justice, peace. So is that the rhyming chant? Is that what that is? 200 Watt Studio says, new mom chant. You're not the boss of us. We have the uterus. Polyfrog64 says, gas, gas, gas. I'm going to step on the gas tonight. DCV Titan says, they think Dora the Explorer is reality and chanting works at keeping Swiper from swiping. Fluffy Tet says, here's a laugh. The ACAB chant they have been using on the protests is a skinhead thing. It's on the ADL's website. CJ says, should have been with Drex so he could smash/pass on the moms. Oh, man. DOG Beera says, any updates on a Second Amendment stream? Not presently. Polyfrog64 says, I don't agree, Nick. Chaz had guns and killed 3. Not enough guns. Bad Vibe says, no oral argument limits the scope and extent any issue can distract from the whole. We will see what happens in September. Trico Blunt says, I just like how it says style. Vic Mignogna. Bad Vibe says, if it waddles like a cuck and clucks like a cuck, is it accompanied by tuba music? Yes. Yes. DOG Beer says, do appeal judges all have to agree? No. They can split 2-1 either way. 200 Watt Studio says, in Lemoyne voice, con! Freighter J says, do the judges confer with one another or decide independently? Generally, they make their decisions, but they refine each other's briefs or their opinions. They pass the opinions around, and there's a lot of editing and input on them. Cemetery Lady says, Wishmaster. Oh, God. Randosaurus Rex says, you see the story about the shooter who shot the judge's son? They say it's an attorney with a vendetta who then offed himself. Seems rather convenient. It does. It does seem very convenient when the assassin assassinates himself, preventing any sort of question. Red Ember Media says, did you hear Tonka is false striking YouTubers? I did hear that. I don't know any details about it, but what a sad existence Tonka must have. Bad Vibe says, Eagles, get over it, was right. Let's kill all the... Ryan Murray says, getting out of Seattle, less than 4 weeks left in this hellhole. Lines blocks long to donate at Goodwill, and U-Haul is sold out of boxes. Well, good luck, buddy. Billy the Kid Lawrence says, Ron Toye, Shane Holmberg, Greg Doucette, Chris Sabat, and Jay Sean Lemoyne versus Nick Rekieta, Vic Mignogna, Tybeard, Peacock, and Drexel. Someone please make that into a poster art piece. Polyfrog64 says, no more activist judges, justice and peace. Kalinka Pavlova says, apparently the assassin got himself yeeted. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, what could you expect? Of course he did. Only Polyfrog64 says, on my YouTube, Polyfrog64 titled Portland Protest. So, guys, if you want to see the Polyfrog64 stream of the Portland protests, go check it out on his YouTube channel. And thank you for letting me know that that is out there. That's fantastic. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Tomorrow we will have a different show. Not sure exactly what it will be. And then further, we will hopefully have DSP on later this week. Oh my goodness, these yawns. But tonight, come join me. Twitch TV/Rekieta Law. You know you want it. And if you have Amazon Prime and a Twitch account, you can, for free, connect your Amazon Prime to your Twitch account, and we can watch a movie together. And we only watch good movies, except when we watch bad ones. Please come join us. It should be fun. Yes, I am getting food first. We will aim to start in 20 minutes. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Here comes that outro. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Peace. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some law-splaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an art bag, a bow, more a love rug. The spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea, post on Twitter as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nam to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Doug T to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea, post on Twitter as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nam to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have